Snow was already killing Eli when he saw the skid marks slicing across I-90. The twisted guardrail, the Harley in the ravine, and the man crushed under it wearing a Hells Angels president patch should have scared him off. Instead, a homeless 17-year-old with nothing to his name gave up his last bit of warmth to keep a stranger alive and dialed a number that brought 750 bikers thundering out of the Montana dark. When their engines fell silent and they circled him in the snow, Eli finally understood. Somebody had not just tried to murder their president, they had used Eli to finish the job. Welcome to the Echo Tales family. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button now, because this story will reach into your heart in ways you do not see coming. To everyone who has been riding with this channel from the beginning, may God bless you and your loved ones more than you can imagine. Before we roll into this night on I-90, let us take a moment to pray. Heavenly Father, thank you for every person listening right now. Watch over them and their families. Heal where there is sickness and provide where there is lack, in Jesus' mighty name, Amen. Now, what you are about to hear is the kind of story that tests what a person is made of. A homeless boy, freezing on the side of a Montana highway, chooses to do what is right and risks his own life to pull a stranger from the snow. Now, let's enjoy the story. Eli Carter had learned a long time ago that snow could be loud. Not just the crunch under your boots, but the way it swallowed every other sound until all you could hear was your own breath, your own heartbeat, and the ugly thoughts you tried to outrun. On the shoulder of I-90 outside Billings, Montana, the wind shoved at his back like it was trying to push him off the map, fingers numb inside thin, torn gloves as he passed another mile marker that meant nothing. His sneakers were soaked, socks frozen stiff, denim jacket no match for the kind of cold that crawled into your bones and started turning the lights off one by one. He tugged his hood lower, face half hidden, watching his breath puff out in ragged clouds that vanished the second they met the night. Trucks hammered by in the right lane, spraying dirty snow and road salt, not one slowing down to wonder why a skinny 17-year-old kid was out here alone after midnight. To them, he was nobody. Just another homeless boy on the side of the interstate, a problem for somebody else. Eli did not know it yet, but this frozen walk on I-90 was about to change everything. If you are still here walking beside him in this snow, stay with his story, tap like, subscribe, and tell the comments where you are watching from so he is not standing out here alone. His stomach twisted again, a sharp, biting hunger that made him wrap his arms tighter around himself. The last thing he had eaten was half a gas station sandwich in Laurel almost 12 hours ago, scarfed behind dumpsters before the clerk came out to chase him away. In his backpack he had exactly 3 things that mattered: a rolled-up hoodie that did not fit anymore, a photo of his little brother Jake grinning with 2 front teeth missing, and a crumpled bus ticket to Seattle that would have taken him away from all of this if his stepfather had not ripped it in half and thrown him out instead. He kept walking because there was nothing else to do. One foot in front of the other. The way the social worker used to tell him when he was younger, before the system spit him back into the same house that hurt him in the first place. One step, then another. You cannot fix everything. You just keep going. Out over the dark fields, beyond frozen fences and black tree skeletons, a faint glow stained the sky to his right. The Winter Thunder Rally had been raging all weekend at the Billings Motorsports Park, monster trucks and stunt bikes and fireworks, the kind of thing he used to watch on YouTube when he still had a bed and a charger. The last explosions had smeared the clouds orange and purple an hour ago, tiny echoes of a world with tickets and hot chocolate and families. He walked in the opposite direction. The road curved, the shoulder narrowing where a guardrail took over. Snow packed against the metal in ridges, gray where the plows had shoved it aside. Eli shoved his hands deeper into his pockets, fingertips burning, and then going strangely numb. He forced himself not to think about what happened when you got too cold, those news stories where they found people on the roadside in the morning, curled like they were just sleeping. That was when he saw the skid marks. They carved across the lanes at a crazy angle, two black streaks slicing the white like someone had dragged a giant marker over the road. They started near the center line and skated all the way to the edge, right into the guardrail, where the metal bent outward like something had hit it hard enough to scream. Eli slowed, breath catching. Car wrecks meant cops. Cops meant questions. Questions meant names, addresses, parents. Things he did not have or did not want to explain. Every instinct sharpened on years of bad nights told him the same thing. Keep walking. He dropped his gaze, tightened his jaw, pushed on. 10 more steps. 20. Snow grinding under his ruined sneakers. He had almost convinced himself that whatever happened back there was not his business when he heard it. Not the wind. Not a truck. Not the low far-off thrum from the rally. A sound ripped up from the darkness beyond the guardrail, torn by the gusts but still human. A raw, broken groan. Eli stopped like somebody grabbed the back of his jacket. For a second he stood there, heart pounding in his throat, eyes squeezed shut. If he ignored it, maybe it would vanish. Maybe it was just the road shifting, ice cracking. Then he heard a word. Help. Faint, strangled, like it was trying to claw its way out of a throat full of blood. But it was there. Help. His stepfather's voice tried to drown it out, ugly and familiar in his head. You are useless. You are trouble. If you disappeared tomorrow, nobody would care. The cold bit his ears. Wind shoved at his back again. He could pretend he never heard. Nobody knew he was here. Nobody would blame him. Nobody ever blamed the ones who walked by and pretended not to see. His body moved before his fear could talk him out of it. Eli crossed to the guardrail, grabbed the freezing metal with aching fingers, and leaned over. The embankment dropped away steeply, a white slope broken by rock and dark scrub. For a heartbeat, all he saw was snow. Then his eyes found the wrong shape. Something big and black lay crumpled at the bottom, half buried where it had plowed through the drift. A motorcycle. Chrome dulled by frost, back wheel still slowly spinning, exhaust hissing weakly in the cold. Next to it, twisted in a way no body should be, a man lay on his back, one leg pinned under the bike, one arm flung out, palm raw and bloody against the snow. The man's leather cut was torn at the shoulder, but the patches were still clear even from up here. Curved letters across the top. Hell's Angels. A white skull with wings. Another patch below, bigger than the rest, stark and brutal in the moonlight. President. Eli's breath hitched. The word sat on his tongue like a stone. He had seen those patches in documentaries and viral clips about rallies in Sturgis and Daytona Beach. Men the news called outlaws and monsters. Men his stepfather cursed whenever they flashed on the television. You stay away from people like that, boy. They eat you alive. Help. The sound came again, weaker. The man's head rolled a little, beard crusted with ice, lips turning blue. From this angle Eli could see the way his chest hitched, like every breath hurt. He could walk away. No one would ever know he had been here. The snow would fall, the highway would stay busy, and by morning somebody else would find whatever was left. The face in the photo in his backpack flashed through his mind. Jake, 8 years old, syrup on his chin, one arm slung around Eli's waist like he was the only safe thing in the world. "Do not let them make you think you're trash," the pastor's wife at the shelter had said once, pressing a paper cup of soup into his hands with fingers that smelled like onions and soap. Trash did not stop. Trash did not care. Trash did not jump a guardrail in a Montana snowstorm. Eli swung one leg over the rail. For a moment his foot hung above the slope, the drop yawning under him, wind clawing at his clothes. Every sensible part of him screamed at once. He jumped anyway. The hill vanished under him. He hit the snow hard on his side, slid, grabbed at branches that snapped in his hands, boots scraping uselessly over ice. Cold shot up his sleeves and down his collar. He crashed into a low stump, breath exploding from his lungs, and came to a stop a few feet from the wreck. Up close, the damage was worse. The bike's front end was crushed, headlights smashed, handlebars twisted. The man under it breathed in short, sharp gasps, each one sounding like it might be his last. His eyes flicked open when Eli crawled closer, irises a shocking clear blue in a face smeared with blood. For a heartbeat they just stared at each other. A homeless kid in a thrift store jacket and a man whose vest said he owned every mile of this road. "You are going to die down here if you do not move," some cold practical part of Eli thought. Him too. He shoved the thought aside and dropped to his knees. "Hang on," he said, voice shaking so hard the words almost broke. "I got you." The man's cracked lips twitched like he wanted to laugh. A skinny teenager with no gloves and no plan claiming he had anything under control. He tried to shift his leg. The sound that tore out of his throat made Eli flinch. "All right, do not move," Eli blurted. "Just keep talking." He looked at the bike, at the way it pinned the man's thigh at an angle that made his stomach roll. He knew enough from first aid videos to understand that if the man stayed stuck, the cold and the weight would do damage you did not come back from. He planted his feet in the snow, wrapped both hands around the handlebars, and pulled. The Harley did not move. Pain shot up his arms, white hot. He bit down on a yell, shifted his grip, tried again. The metal felt fused to the earth, like the crash had welded it there. The muscles in his back screamed. His vision went gray around the edges. "Kid," the man rasped. Eli ignored him and pulled harder. His shoes slipped. His shoulders felt like they were tearing. For a heartbeat the bike lifted an inch, maybe two. The man sucked in a breath and yanked his leg, boots scraping free just as the bike crashed back down with a dull, final thud. Eli stumbled, fell to his knees, hands burning, chest heaving like he had sprinted all the way from Spokane. "You are insane," the man whispered, a broken laugh riding his breath. "You are heavy," Eli muttered, the words thin and breathless. His teeth were chattering hard now. Sweat cooled on his neck even as the cold chewed through his shirt. He glanced up at the strip of highway above them, black against the sky, emptier than ever. No headlights. No sirens. No help. "Do you have a phone?" he asked. The man jerked his chin toward his chest. Inside pocket. Eli dug into the leather cut with shaking fingers until he found a smartphone, slick with blood. The screen bloomed to life under his thumb, bright against the dark. No lock. Just a list of recent calls with names that sounded like trouble. Tank. Rabbit. Clubhouse. Officer's emergency. He hesitated one beat, then hit the emergency contact. The line rang once. A voice answered, low and hard. Yeah. There has been a wreck, Eli said, words tumbling. I am on I-90 eastbound, just past the Billings Motorsports Park exit. Your guy went off the road. He is alive, but bad. Who is this? Just a kid, Eli said. But if you do not get here soon, your president is going to freeze to death in a ditch. A pause, so long he thought the call had dropped. When the voice came back, it was even colder. Stay with him. Do not let him go to sleep. We are coming. The line went dead. Eli stared at the phone, then at the man in the snow. The word president on his chest suddenly felt heavier than the bike had. All the stories, all the rumors, all the fear people had of that patch stacked up inside Eli's head. He had just called them. Told them exactly where he was. Alone. At the bottom of a snowy ditch with their leader bleeding beside him. Above them, the night trembled. At first he thought it was the wind. Then he heard it for real. A low, distant rumble rolling across the dark, too steady to be thunder, too layered to be a single engine. 1, then 3, then 10, then so many that the air itself seemed to vibrate. Eli looked up at the strip of highway, heart hammering against his ribs like it was trying to break out. Headlights began to crest the rise in a long, unbroken line, cutting through the falling snow like a river of white fire. They were not sending a car. They were bringing an army. Engines filled the night until it felt like the whole highway was breathing. Eli stood in the ditch with snow up to his shins, chest heaving, and watched I-90 above him turn into a river of headlights. The sound was deeper than trucks, a layered growl that crawled into his ribs and shook them from the inside. On the shoulder, bikes lined up tight, front wheels at the guardrail. Headlights washed over the bent metal and spilled down the embankment. Silhouettes moved behind the beams, big shapes in leather and denim, patches catching the glare. For a moment, Eli felt like he was standing in the center of some frozen arena and the crowd had just arrived. If stories like this grip you, hit like and subscribe so you never miss the next twist in Eli's night on this highway. One figure swung off the lead bike and stepped forward. The rest followed without a word. The first man, gray beard to his chest and shoulders filled by a heavy cut, strode to the guardrail and looked down. His eyes flashed pale in the light. He saw Eli first. Their gazes locked. Eli felt pinned, a skinny 17-year-old outlined by the glare, every breath a white cloud. He knew what he looked like to them, a homeless kid alone with their president bleeding at his feet. Then the man's eyes dropped to the wreck. His face changed in an instant, hard lines snapping into shock and fury. That is him, someone shouted. That is Reaper. Everything moved at once. Bikers flowed toward the guardrail. Some dropped over the edge, sliding down toward the wreck. Others fell into practiced positions. One was already on the phone, shouting for an ambulance. Another snapped open a med kit. Eli staggered back as two men reached Reaper. One with a doc patch dropped to his knees, checking breathing and pulse. The other braced Reaper's neck. "What happened?" Doc barked. "He was already down here when I heard him," Eli said. "The bike was on his leg. I pulled it up so he could get free." "You moved the bike," Doc snapped. Eli flinched. The bearded man slid down with more control than anyone, his cut marked with Hell's Angels Montana and a small name patch over his heart. "Ray." Ray leaned over Reaper, eyes scanning damage. "Brother," he said, voice steady. "Stay with me." Reaper's eyelids flickered. His gaze found Ray, then slid to Eli. "Kid," he whispered. "Told you they would come." His head rolled to the side. "Is he?" Eli began. "He is fighting," Doc cut in. Ray finally turned to Eli. Up close, his face was all lines and old scars. "You the one who called?" he asked. Eli nodded, legs shaking. "Name?" "Eli Carter." Something flickered in Ray's eyes at the last name, but before he could dig, red and blue lights painted the snow. "The ambulance." "Move," Doc shouted. "Make a path." The bikers opened a tunnel. Two EMTs slid down with a stretcher. They worked fast, collar on, leg secured, Reaper strapped to a backboard. Eli pressed himself against the bank, trying to disappear. One EMT glanced at him. "You all right, son?" "I am fine," Eli lied. There was no time to argue. Reaper was carried up the hill, loaded into the ambulance, and gone in a blast of siren and spinning lights. Silence dropped in behind it, broken by idling engines and rough breathing. Eli stood in the brightness, suddenly aware of how many men were looking straight at him. Ray climbed back up and held out a hand. "Come on," he said. Eli stared at it. "Stay if you want," Ray added. "But cops will be here in 3 minutes. You look how you look. They will have questions you do not want to answer in a ditch." That made sense. Eli grabbed his wrist and was hauled onto the shoulder. The line of bikes stretched farther than he could count, every one with a rider in a cut, every rider watching him. "This him?" someone asked. "This is the kid who called it in," Ray said. The attention sharpened. Eli felt measured and weighed. A taller man stepped forward, hair pulled back, tattoos creeping under his cut. His rocker read Hell's Angels, the bottom said Montana, and his patch read Vice President. "You from around here?" he asked. "No. You run away from something." Eli's throat closed. Ray lifted a hand. "Leave it. Not now." Up the highway, new lights appeared. A patrol car rolled up, tires crunching. A trooper climbed out, eyes scanning the wall of bikers and the lone kid. "Evening," he said. "We got a call about a motorcycle down." "Ambulance already took him," Ray answered. "Your radio should have it." The trooper's gaze slid to Eli. "And you are?" Eli felt cornered between law and club. Both dangerous, just in different colors. He opened his mouth, but Ray spoke. "He is the one who found Reaper," Ray said. "Climbed down, pulled the bike off him, called us." The trooper raised his brows. "That right?" Eli nodded. You got somewhere warm to go tonight, son? Eli thought about the underpass, the shelter line, the locked front door back home. No, he said. The trooper sighed. All right. I need a statement. After that, we will see. He reached for his car door. Ray stepped a little closer. He can give his statement at the hospital, Ray said. Our brother is in surgery. Kid should be there. The trooper studied him, then nodded. Fine. I am riding behind you. If he disappears before I get that statement, we have a problem. Understood, Ray said. A heavy hand landed on Eli's shoulder. You are riding with us, Ray told him quietly. Eli looked down the line of bikes, at the helmets and patches and eyes. His body wanted to bolt. His bones wanted heat. His brain listed every warning he had ever heard about men in these cuts. If you feel that pull between fear and curiosity, stay close, hit like and subscribe, because from here on, every mile Eli rides with them will drag him deeper into secrets he does not understand yet. Snow hissed through the headlights. Somewhere ahead, the ambulance was racing toward Billings with their president barely hanging on. Ray squeezed Eli's shoulder once. You stepped into our story tonight, he said. Question is, are you ready for what comes next if you climb on? The vice president walked up with a spare helmet and held it out. Eli stared at his warped reflection in the black shell, fingers tingling with cold and fear, as 750 bikers waited in a silence that felt louder than any engine. Eli had never been on a motorcycle before. By the time he realized there was no safe way to say no, Ray was already walking him toward a matte black Harley near the front of the formation, the spare helmet still hanging from the vice president's hand. The patrol car idled behind the wall of bikes, headlights washing the scene in a hard white that made everything feel twice as exposed. The helmet felt heavier than it looked when Eli finally took it. His fingers trembled as he slid it on, the inside padding cold against his ears. The strap fumbled against his jaw until Ray reached over and snapped it in place with one quick motion, like he had done this for scared kids before. If you want to see how deep this story goes, like and subscribe before the next blow lands, because every choice Eli makes now is dragging him further into a world that does not let people walk away clean. Swing your leg over, Ray said. Hold on to me or the bar, but do not let go. Eli's heart hammered. The bike's engine rumbled under him like a living thing, vibration humming up through the frame into his legs. He slid onto the back seat, feeling 1,000 eyes track every movement. His hands hovered, unsure, until Ray reached back, grabbed one of them, and placed it firmly around his waist. There, Ray said. You fall off, kid, and it will not be the cold that kills you. The trooper pulled out behind them, lights off now, just another car in the dark. Ray raised 2 fingers, a small signal, and the line of bikes came alive. Engines roared in sequence, a wave of sound that rolled down the formation and bounced back off the snowbanks. Eli's chest vibrated with it, his ribs buzzing like they might shake loose. Then they moved. The first jolt nearly yanked Eli backward, but his arm locked tighter around Ray. The bike surged onto I-90, tires chewing through slush, cold air slapping at Eli's exposed neck. Wind tore at his clothes, found every gap in his jacket, but for the first time that night the cold did not feel like the main enemy. The speed did. Highway lamps flicked past in long, steady intervals, throwing the pack in and out of shadow. Eli watched the line of red taillights curve ahead of them, 750 bikes in a convoy that flowed like a single creature. Each time a truck appeared ahead, the formation shifted to let it pass, then stitched itself back together around the patrol car like a net. "You good back there?" Ray's voice came over his shoulder, muffled by the helmet. "Yes," Eli lied. His voice shook in his own ears. He looked past Ray's shoulder at the night sliding by. Snowfields, dark trees, the occasional distant farmhouse light. Somewhere ahead, the ambulance was carving a similar path toward Billings, siren punching holes in the quiet. Reaper was in that box of light and metal, strapped down, half-conscious, breathing through broken ribs that might stop any second. Eli tried not to think about how it would feel if the man died after he had already ripped his leg free. If the club decided the kid had done more harm than good. He had never meant to be inside anyone else's story. He had just wanted to survive one more night. The ride to town blurred between terror and a strange, unwanted thrill. The bike banked gently with the curve of the interstate, the skyline of Billings slowly blooming ahead, a low cluster of orange and white lights on the flat dark earth. The pack peeled off toward the hospital exit, the patrol car sticking close behind them. At the first red light, drivers in regular cars stared openly. Some raised phones to record the flood of Hell's Angels pouring through the city streets. Eli caught a glimpse of his own reflection in a passing storefront window, a thin kid clinging to the back of a bike he had no business being on, swallowed by leather and chrome. They rolled into the hospital parking lot like a storm. Engines cut one after another until the sudden quiet made Eli's ears ring. Breath smoked in the cold as riders dismounted, helmets coming off to reveal faces that all shared the same tightness around the eyes. Nobody joked. Nobody lingered by their bikes. They moved toward the ER entrance in a wave. Ray stepped off and clapped a hand to Eli's shoulder again. "Helmet off," he said. "Stay close." Inside, the hospital smelled like antiseptic and old coffee. Fluorescent lights buzzed, too bright after the dark highway. The waiting room was small compared to the pack that tried to press into it. Nurses at the front desk went pale when they looked up and saw the flood of patches. "Sir," one of them started. "You cannot all be in here." Ray lifted both hands slightly, palms out. "We know," he said. "We just want to know where they took our president. We will wait where you tell us." The nurse hesitated, eyes flicking from the cuts to the trooper now walking in behind them. "He is with them," the trooper said, nodding at Ray. "They are here for the victim." The word victim hit Eli in the chest. The nurse swallowed. "Trauma 3, she said. Surgery prep. You can wait in there. But only a few. We will rotate," Ray said. He turned and pointed. You stay here. The rest, take the side hallway, stay out of everyone's way. No one gives anyone in this building trouble, you hear me?" Murmured assent rolled through the group. For a second, Eli saw the club as something other than a wall of leather. There was order here. Rules. They listened to him. Ray hooked a finger at Eli. "You too." The trooper caught Eli's arm as he moved to follow. "Statement," he reminded gently. Ray's jaw flexed. "He gets 5 minutes, he said. Then the kid talks to you." The trooper nodded. They stepped into a smaller room just off the waiting area, a space with plastic chairs, a drink machine humming in the corner, and a TV mounted on the wall playing some muted late-night talk show. The noise in the ER faded behind the door, replaced by the hiss of the heater and the soft creak of leather as the men sat. Eli took a chair near the wall, feeling like every surface might burn him. "You did good out there," Doc said, breaking the silence. He sat across from Eli, arms on his knees, eyes tired but sharp. "That leg would have been crushed to pulp if you had not lifted that bike." "I think I did it wrong," Eli said quietly. "You said not to move it." Doc shrugged one shoulder. "In a perfect world, we do not touch anything until a spine board shows up. In this world, he bleeds out alone in a ditch if you do not. I will take broken over dead." The words sank in numb and slow. Ray watched him for a long moment, like he was trying to decide how much to say. "Eli Carter," he said finally. "That your full name?" "Yes." "Where you from?" "Washington," Eli said. "Spokane." Ray's eyes narrowed. "Your old man's name?" Eli's fingers tightened on the edge of his chair. He thought about lying, but something in Ray's gaze made it feel pointless. "Mark," he said. "Mark Carter." Ray leaned back like he had been hit. A low curse slipped out before he could stop it. "I knew it," he muttered. Eli frowned. "You knew him?" Ray rubbed a hand over his beard. "Your dad ever tell you what he did in Tacoma?" he asked. "He left," Eli said. "That is what he did." A muscle jumped in Ray's jaw. "That is one way to say it." Doc glanced between them. "You sure, Ray? Could be a coincidence." "Look at him," Ray shot back. "Same eyes. Same name. Reaper does not forget faces or debts." Eli's stomach knotted. "Debts." Ray looked at him again, something like guilt flickering behind the harder things. "Your father saved Reaper's life once," he said. "Years ago, outside a bar in Tacoma. Took a shot meant for him. Went to the ground bleeding. Could have stayed. Could have patched in. Instead he made us disappear him." Disappear him. The phrase felt wrong. Heavy. "Why?" Eli asked. "Because the man who pulled the trigger had friends in places with badges," Ray said. "And because your old man had a wife and a baby at home who would have paid for his patch with their lives. So he walked away. Left us owing him more than we could ever pay." The room went too quiet. Eli's pulse roared in his ears. All those years his stepfather had called him useless, had sneered that his real dad was some coward who ran off. And now this stranger was telling him Mark Carter had stepped into a gunfight for a man like Reaper and then vanished to keep his family breathing. "You are saying," Eli began slowly, "that Reaper knows who I am?" Ray nodded once. "He recognized the name in the ditch, I guarantee you that. Might not have had the words for it yet through all that pain, but he knows." Eli's skin prickled. "So what does that mean for me?" Before Ray could answer, the door opened. The trooper stepped in, hat in one hand, a small notepad in the other. "Time," he said. Ray stood. "He is not running," he told the trooper. "Did not say he was," the trooper replied. He sat down opposite Eli and clicked his pen. "All right," Eli. Just tell me what you saw. Eli recounted it, from the skid marks to the guardrail, the sound of help, the jump, the bike, the call. His voice sounded far away as he spoke, like it belonged to someone else. The trooper wrote, asked a few clarifying questions, then closed the pad. You did the right thing calling it in, he said. A lot of folks would have kept walking. Eli did not know what to do with that. You got any charges, warrants, any reason I should be dragging you downtown? The trooper added, tone practical rather than threatening. No, Eli said. All right then. For now, you are free to go where they take you. If we need you for anything else, we will find you. That last sentence landed like a weight on Eli's chest. The trooper left. The heater hummed. Somewhere in the guts of the hospital, machines beeped steadily around a man who might or might not wake up. Ray dropped back into his chair. Here is the thing, kid, he said. Whether you like it or not, you are in this now. In what? Eli asked. The blood, Ray said simply. Your father saved our president once. Tonight you did it again. That is not nothing in our world. Eli swallowed. I did not do it for anything. That is why it matters, Ray said. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. If you want to see how far this debt pulls him, and whether Eli chooses to run from it or ride into it, stay with this story, like and subscribe now, because once the next door opens there will not be an easy way back out. The door to the waiting room swung open again. A doctor stepped in, green scrubs under a white coat, surgical cap still on, lines of exhaustion carved deep around his eyes. The patch of quiet inside the room tightened. You are here for Mr. Hayes, he asked, looking at Ray. Reaper, Ray corrected automatically. Yeah. The doctor took a breath. He is alive, he said. For now. We repaired what we could. His leg was a mess but we managed to save it. The head trauma is the concern. He is in a coma. Could be hours. Could be days. Could be longer. Relief and dread twisted together in Eli's chest. Alive. But not really here. Can we see him? Ray asked. One at a time, the doctor said. Immediate family first. Ray hesitated, then glanced at Eli. Something unspoken passed through his expression. He has no blood here, Ray said quietly. The doctor frowned. Then who are all of you? Family, Ray said. The kind you choose. He stood and looked straight at Eli. Come on, he said. Eli blinked. Me. Ray nodded. You pulled him out of that snow. You go in before I do. A dozen pairs of eyes followed Eli as he rose on unsteady legs and walked past them, out into the hall, past the nurses and security guards trying to look like they were not unnerved by the wall of leather and the chairs. His sneakers squeaked on the polished floor. His hands would not stop shaking. The doctor led them down a corridor that smelled sharper, colder somehow. They stopped outside a door with a number and a warning sign about hand sanitizer. The doctor pushed it open. Machines hummed softly inside. A monitor ticked out a slow rhythm. Reaper lay in the bed, skin pale against the sheets, beard cleaned of blood, tubes and wires snaking into his arms and under the blankets. His leg was wrapped thick, elevated. Eli stepped just inside the door and stopped. The man looked smaller here, washed of the noise and heat and fury that had surrounded him on the highway. Just a broken body held together by stitches and plastic lines. He felt Ray's presence behind him, solid and unmoving. "Say something," Ray murmured. "Even if he cannot hear it." Eli swallowed, his throat tight. He thought of the ditch, the way Reaper's hand had clamped around his wrist, the way he had said kid like it meant something. He thought of his father, a name and a ghost, suddenly tethered to this man by a story no one had bothered to tell him. He stepped closer to the bed, fingers twitching at his sides. "Hey," he said quietly. "It is Eli. The stupid kid who did not keep walking." A weak laugh that was not really a laugh caught in his chest. "You owe my family, they say," he whispered. "But now I guess I owe you too." Somewhere outside the door, boots thudded on tile, voices rose and dropped. The world beyond this room kept moving, full of engines and sirens and deaths. Eli stood between them, staring at the slow blink of the monitor. Reaper's fingers twitched. For a second, Eli thought he imagined it, just some glitch in his tired brain. But then it happened again, a tiny movement against the white sheet, like his hand was trying to remember how to be a fist. The heart monitor kept its slow, steady rhythm, a soft electronic heartbeat for a man who had spent his whole life living by louder ones. Ray stepped up to the other side of the bed, eyes locked on that hand. "You see that?" he murmured. Eli nodded, throat too tight to speak. Reaper's eyelids fluttered. Not much, just enough to show a sliver of gray between lashes. The doctor had said coma. Days. Maybe weeks. But something in the room felt like it had shifted, like someone had opened a door a crack and light was trying to force its way through. "Reaper," Ray said quietly. "It is Ray. You are in Billings, General. You made it off that highway." For a long moment nothing changed. Then Reaper's mouth moved, words sticky and soft. "Cold," he whispered. "You are inside," Ray said. "You are warm." Reaper's gaze drifted unfocused toward the ceiling, then slid sideways. It landed on Eli like a weight. "Kid," he breathed. "You are still here." Eli swallowed. "Yeah. You are hard to walk away from." A small rasp that might have been a laugh scraped out of Reaper's chest. "Could have left me," he said. "Did not." His eyes closed again for a moment, then opened a little wider, just enough for something like recognition to burn there. "Carter," Reaper whispered. Ray glanced at Eli. "He knows," he said softly. Reaper's fingers twitched again, this time reaching, searching. Eli hesitated, then stepped closer and wrapped his hand gently around the older man's. The skin was rough, the grip weak but deliberate. "You have his hands," Reaper murmured. "Like your old man." "You knew him," Eli said. Reaper's eyes glistened in the harsh hospital light. "Saved my life," he said. "Took a bullet. Walked away so trouble would not follow his kid home." Eli's chest cracked open around the words. All those years of thinking his father was a shadow who left because Eli was not worth staying for. And now this man, half broken on a hospital bed, was telling him his father had walked away to keep him breathing. He wanted to be angry. He wanted to be grateful. Mostly he just felt hollow and full at the same time. He did not tell me, Eli managed. Reaper's mouth twitched. Some debts you do not brag about, he said. You just carry them. Silence settled over the room, heavier than the machines. Ray watched them both, arms folded across his chest, eyes strangely soft. We owe him, Reaper continued. Owe you. That is how this works. I did not pull you out of that ditch for a reward, Eli said quickly. Good, Reaper said. Because what I am offering is not a reward. His hand tightened slightly around Eli's, surprising strength in that grip. I got a club that needs to remember what we stand for, he said. Brothers. Family. Paying back what we owe. I got enemies who thought they could take me off a road and nobody would answer. And I got a kid named Carter who jumped a guardrail in a snowstorm when the rest of the world would have walked on. The monitor beeped steadily as he sucked in another breath. You got somewhere to go after this, he asked. Somewhere safe. Eli thought of the underpasses, the shelter line, the dead phone in his pocket, the ripped bus ticket that was still folded in his backpack. He thought of walking along I-90 alone with nothing but hunger and wind for company. No, he said quietly. Reaper's jaw clenched like that answer hurt more than any of his injuries. Then here is what we are going to do, he said. Voice stronger now, like deciding gave him power. Ray, he added without looking away from Eli. Yeah, brother, Ray answered. Kid does not spend another night on concrete, Reaper said. You hear me. He gets a room, food, clothes that are not falling apart. Work, if he wants it. And anybody who has a problem with that can bring it to me when I wake up. Eli stared at him. Why? He asked. Reaper's eyes sharpened. Because your father stepped into a fight that was not his and changed my life, he said. And because you just did the same. You think I am going to pretend that did not happen? Something inside Eli slid, like ice breaking loose in spring. Ray stepped closer to the bed, his voice low. We already booked you a room at a motel near the shop, he told Eli. Before we even knew your last name. 1 week paid. That was for pulling him out of that snow. You did that? Eli asked. Ray shrugged. Family takes care of people who take care of family. That is how we see it. The word family sat in the air between them, unfamiliar and sharp. What if I do not want to be part of this? Eli asked, the question out before he could stop it. Reaper's gaze did not waver. Then you take the room, the food, the warm clothes, and tomorrow you walk whichever direction you want, he said. Door is open both ways. We are not a prison. He paused, eyes searching Eli's face. But if you stay, he added quietly, then we do this right. You are not just some stray kid we threw a jacket at and forgot. We teach you how to work. How to ride. How to stand up when someone tries to throw you in a ditch and leave you there. Eli let the words sink in. Warmth. Work. A place that noticed if you went missing. The idea tasted dangerous, like hope. Ray's phone buzzed softly. He checked the screen, jaw tightening for a heartbeat, then relaxed. Brake line was cut, he said. The boys found it while they pulled your bike into the bay. Clean slice. Not a rock, not a bad part. Someone meant for you to hit that rail. Reaper closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were colder. I figured, he said. Who? Ray asked. Reaper hesitated, then shook his head once. Not in front of him. Eli stiffened. This was bigger than one wreck on a snowy highway. Bigger than an old debt being paid. Someone had wanted this man dead badly enough to sabotage his bike on the night of a big rally, knowing he would be alone on the road afterward. He thought of the black SUV that had rolled slow past the scene earlier in the night, windows tinted, the way it had paused just long enough to feel wrong. He had not mentioned it to anyone. He had not thought it mattered. A picture slammed into his brain now, clear and sharp. A phone raised in the darkness. A tiny red recording light blinking near the passenger window. There was a car, Eli blurted. Before you all got there. Ray's head snapped toward him. What car? Black SUV, Eli said. No plates on the front. Rolled up slow when I was still down in the ditch. I thought they were going to stop, but they just watched for a second. Then drove off. Reaper's fingers tightened again. You see the driver? He asked. No, Eli said. Just the phone. They filmed you, he added quietly. Ray cursed under his breath. That video will be online by morning, he said. Kid in the snow with our president under a bike, whole pack rolling up. And whoever cut that line, Reaper added, will be watching the comments. Eli's stomach turned. So I am a target too now, he asked. Reaper met his eyes. You were a target the second they realized whose son you are, he said. They did not just want me off that road. They wanted to make sure the Carter name never showed up in our world again. Fear clawed at Eli's chest, but something else rose with it. Anger. He had spent his whole life being treated like a problem, like a mistake someone wished would disappear. Now strangers he had never met had tried to erase him without even knowing him. What do we do? He asked. Reaper's gaze slid to Ray. First, we keep him alive, Reaper said. No more walking highways alone. You get him set up at the motel, then at the shop. No details on the internet, no full name outside this room. Ray nodded. And then, Reaper added, voice dropping lower, we find out who cut that line. Quiet. Careful. We do not give them the war they are hoping for. We give them something worse. Eli did not know what worse meant in this world, but the way both men's faces hardened told him whoever was on the other end of that break line was not going to sleep easy. The doctor reappeared in the doorway, expression softening when he saw Reaper awake and talking. You are supposed to be resting, he said. Reaper smirked faintly. I will rest when the kid stops looking like he is going to bolt, he replied. The doctor sighed. 5 more minutes, he said. Then everyone out. He left them again. Ray put a hand on Eli's shoulder. The weight still felt heavy, but less like a trap now and more like an anchor. You got options, he said quietly. Most kids on that highway do not. You can take the help, lay low, figure your life out. Or you can walk back into that snow and pretend none of this happened. Can I ask something? Eli said. Ray nodded. If I stay, does that mean I am one of you? Not overnight, Ray said. This is not a jacket we throw on someone because we feel bad. It takes time. Work. Trust. But it means we do not let anyone hurt you without answering. It means you are not alone by default anymore. Reaper squeezed his hand again. It means when someone leaves you in the snow, kid, he said, there will be 750 bikes on that highway before your body ever gets cold. The image hit Eli hard. Not because of the engines or the jackets, but because of the simple promise inside it. Someone would come. Someone would notice. Someone would care enough to show up. He thought of Jake, little brother standing barefoot in their kitchen doorway, whispering, "Do not freeze out there, idiot." He pictured a future where he could call his brother from a number that was his, in a place that was his, and tell him he was okay. That he had people watching his back. He drew in a slow, shaky breath. "I do not know how to be part of something like this," he admitted. Ray's mouth twitched. "We will teach you," he said. "You just start by showing up and not lying to our faces." If watching him stand in that choice hits something in you, stay with stories like this, like and subscribe, because kids like Eli are real, and every view helps keep their kind of courage from being invisible. Eli looked at Reaper, at Ray, at the tubes and wires and the patched leather hanging on the chair by the bed. At the faint grease stains ground into Ray's knuckles, the hospital band cutting across Reaper's wrist, the faint hum of a world much bigger than anything he had ever known. "Okay," he said finally. "I will stay. For now." Reaper's eyes closed, but a smile ghosted across his mouth. "Good," he murmured. "Hate owing ghosts." Ray's hand tightened once on Eli's shoulder, then let go. "Come on," he said. "Let him rest. Tomorrow we get you some real food and boots that do not leak." They stepped out into the hall. The door clicked softly shut behind them. The pack was still in the waiting room, quieter now, some praying, some scrolling through their phones, some staring at the floor. Heads turned as Eli and Ray emerged. "Well?" Doc asked. "He knows," Ray said simply. "And he is not dead." A ripple of breath moved through the men, the kind of exhale people hold for hours when they are too afraid to let it out early. Ray jerked his chin toward the exit. "Let us get you to that room," he said to Eli. Eli followed him down the hallway, past vending machines and bulletin boards and tired nurses. As the automatic doors slid open and the night air hit his face, he looked out at the line of bikes in the lot, silent now, chrome glinting under the streetlights. The snow had slowed to a soft drift, flakes turning lazy in the glow. The highway was still out there, stretching into dark in both directions, full of places where people were walking alone. But tonight, Eli was not one of them. He pulled his thin jacket tighter out of habit, then felt the weight of the leather Ray had draped over his shoulders earlier, left there without ceremony. It was too big, smelled like engine oil and cold air and something like safety. Eli touched the edge of the patch with his fingertips, not tracing the words, just feeling the stitches. He had stepped into their story on a frozen strip of I-90, thinking he was just helping a stranger in the snow. Instead, he had dragged an old debt back into the light, almost died of the cold, and found a door into a life he never thought he was allowed to want. As he walked toward the bikes and the waiting ride to a warm bed, one thought anchored itself in his chest and would not move. He had not saved Reaper alone that night. Choosing not to walk away when the world told him he did not matter had saved him too.